Today, I am interviewing John Scanlon, who is the CEO of Suez Recycling and Recovery UK. John is responsible for delivering the corporate vision in the UK. And one of the key elements of this is driving forward the three company aims. And one of these is to ensure there's an empowered and an engaged workforce. So I've invited John along here today to share how this has been working for him and the people. Welcome, John.
Hello, Louisa. Nice to be with you today.
So one of the first steps you took to drive your first aim, John, which was having an engaged workforce, an engaged and empowered workforce, was to do an employee engagement survey. Why did you decide that this was necessary?
So if we go back a number of years for the company, we could really see how our business was going to change. We could see the services our customers were looking for were going to be very different in the future. So we had to have a really clearly defined vision. And that was the first step we took a number of years ago, probably 10 years ago now, where we came up with our new company vision of living in a society where there is no more waste. Then we looked about how would we be providing the services for the customers. And we looked at the fact that we have three kind of strategic priorities. One, having an engaged and empowered workforce. Two, having strong customer loyalty. And three, ultimately having a profitable and sustainable business. And for me, I'm a really big believer that you have to have really engaged employees to provide fantastic customer service to give you that longevity, that profitable and sustainable business. So as we started, we said, okay, well, what we need to do, like anything, if you want to be able to manage it and improve it, you have to know where your baseline is. So we decided at that point to do a really in-depth employee engagement survey, bringing in a third party from outside to help us do that, to really give us some granularity about the areas that people were engaged in and the areas where maybe they weren't, and we had to do some additional work.
So I think there's probably a lot of companies that want to get the employees' feedback and are probably thinking that's a great idea. But how do you get people to respond to them? Because, I think people worry about whether it's going to be anonymous, what's going to happen if they're honest. How did you go about doing this?
Well, we've been doing it for a number of years now, probably about 8 years, doing our USay survey. That's the name of the kind of internal brand, the USay survey. And when we started, you hit absolutely on a couple of the important points. People were skeptical. If I put some response in here that's maybe not as positive as the company might like, is there going to be an impact? So one of the key things we did was we worked with a third-party company, an organisation called Best Companies. Mm-hmm. And that's the organisation that runs the Sunday Times Best Companies to Work For list. And they run the survey on our behalf, and they do it completely independently. And, we have absolutely no access to individual data. So we get the global results from them, broken down in great granularity about, what it feels like in particular sites. But we can't understand, obviously, what's said by any individual. So I think that was a really important point for us to kind of get across and give people the confidence.
So do you think the fact that you hired a third party gave people more confidence because it wasn't coming directly to you, or what else do you think gave them the confidence?
I think it did give people more confidence. I think at the outset there was still skepticism. I think that's fair to say. I think people were still a bit nervous. So what we've seen is, we did the surveys, and I think, one of the key things I would say for people who are thinking about doing a survey, what we did was an employee engagement survey rather than a satisfaction survey. And what's the difference? Well, if you speak to Best Companies, they describe it quite well, in my view, which is doing something because you want to rather than because you have to, being the difference between engagement and satisfaction. And one of the real elements in there is your relationship with your manager. So within the survey that we do, there's about 25 questions out of maybe 80 in total, which is about how does it feel to work for your manager? So my team answer about what does it feel like to work for John Scanlon? What's John good at? What is John bad at? What can he improve on? And so after we have the survey, we then I sit down with my direct team, go through the feedback that they've given me globally, and we agree a plan for how I will improve and be a better manager in the future. And we do that through the whole business. So it's quite a brave thing to do when you sit with your team.
So you talk to them for 8 years then, because I'm still really interested in how you get the people to respond. Over the 8 years, what changes have you made to increase the response rates?
So I think there's a couple of things, Louisa. So one is, I think people naturally get more comfortable with the system, and they see that it's real, and we take actions as a consequence of it. So they see that if they respond, there's change, and that's positive. So the next time the survey comes around, they're more open to giving feedback. So I think that's a real positive, and there are very clear things that we've done as a consequence of our USAY survey. I think one of the other things that we did was we created a number of USAY champions or ambassadors within the business who would go around the sites and explain to people how the process worked and give them additional comfort if they needed about the confidentiality. I think we give people an hour each within the working day to do the survey. So again, we're not saying do it in your spare time, do it at weekends, you know, take it out of your work time to do it. And we provide, you know, the facilities, laptops, whatever it might be, because not everybody's got access. And one of the other key things that we do is we have a charity partner, which is Macmillan. And we say to people, for every survey which is completed, we'll donate £5 to our Macmillan charity partner. And to put that into context, we have about 5,600 people in our organisation in the UK. For our last survey, our response rate was 84%, which is a pretty phenomenal response rate. If you look at other kinds of surveys, you're probably in about the 30 to 35% mark. So, you know, consistency over a period of time and giving people the clarity of, you know, even if, you know, you're not that too worried, you know, you fill the survey in, then that's really positive because there's £5 that's going to Macmillan.
So it sounds like getting that first one out is probably going to be the most difficult, because you're going to hopefully install the faith that it's going to be used in the right way after the first one. But in order to get people to respond, then you suggest an ambassador to promote the survey. Also, what you don't expect people to do it in work time necessarily. Sorry, in their own personal time. Give them time in the working hours and give them the facilities and the resource to do it. And a fantastic idea about, you know, donating to charity at the same time.
And I think the key things for me, Louisa, in terms of, you know, how do you get that engagement? How do you get people responding? You know, you have to be super consistent. You have to be very open with the data that you get back and saying, look, this is what we're really good at. This is probably where we're not so good. So how are we going to improve? So I think that's really important. And what's critical is that the people who've taken the time and the effort to fill the surveys in see change as a consequence.
Yes, fantastic. That is absolutely brilliant, and some really unique things that you've done there. So thanks ever so much, John, for sharing that today. And I'm going to look forward to our learnings in our next video.
Absolutely fine. Nice to talk to you.